There we go. So welcome everyone to our January 2022 meeting for the PTA Star Academy. Happy New Year. Even though it's a couple of weeks removed from the actual New Year day, but hope everyone's in good health. And I know we had a really weird start to the new year, but I think as a school community, we really came together and handled it really well. And of course, always the biggest thanks and kudos to Darlene and the rest of the staff at Star for going above and beyond to keep us feeling safe and keeping our families updated on everything that's going on with COVID protocols and testing vans and all that kind of stuff. It was a really bizarre couple weeks, but hopefully we've kind of worked our way through that, and it seems like COVID cases citywide are dropping, and lines for COVID testing are not as long, and it seems like people can get access to that stuff a little bit easier. So that's promising, and hopefully going into February we'll be in somewhat back to a normal, whatever that means, a normal kind of place. So again, if you check the agenda in the chat, I'll repost it. But we have the agenda there. We have our finance report, and we also have the proposed interim budget, which we'll briefly go over today, but also we'll get deeper into that at our fundraising committee meeting. But again, like I said at the top of the meeting, hopefully tonight's meeting won't be more than an hour. We'll be done by 7, hopefully. So just keep that in mind as we're going through all of our report backs and stuff. But as always, we'll start the agenda, get a little check-in from Darlene, some updates on what's going on over at Star. So Darlene, you want to take the floor?
Hi, everybody. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us virtually. So really quick check-in around facilities. We have basically kind of still the same, we're in the same holding pattern regarding the sub pump. So we're still waiting for that to be delivered. Right now, we're being told that, all of the supply chain issues that we're having nationally are directly impacting us. And that's one of the reasons why we still have yet to get the sub pump. Meanwhile, they have been working on asbestos abatement in the basement area where the sub pump is supposed to be installed, so that the area is ready for the pump whenever it comes. In terms of issues with the bathroom in the building, we still continue to have some slight issues during the day. So teachers have been notifying me right away, and we've been having the custodians tend to those issues, whether it's somebody's garbage to get changed or somebody's trash wasn't taken out. There are other examples of the plumbing on the fourth floor bathroom, in the fourth floor bathrooms for the adults and the children, continuing to have small issues around toilets being able to flush, water running through the water fountain. And so when we've contacted the custodians, they're usually able to go to the basement and change the way the water pressure is in the buildings to like remediate the problem and fix the problem in the moment. But it's still kind of the same situation of this week my speech teacher, or was it, maybe it was last week, our speech teacher actually sent us a video of the toilet kind of just like not completely exploding, but you would not want to sit on it with the noise that it was making and the water that was bubbling out. I sent the video to the superintendent, just to be like, this is an ongoing issue. Here's what my speech teacher went to the bathroom and found. She sent it to Mark DiVincenzo, who's basically our custodian supervisor. And his response was, well, if they report it to the custodians, they'll go to the basement and adjust the water pressure and fix it. But I think it's just the point that we're still going through this is still, the concern. And so now that next week is going to literally be February, we were told that, this might take a matter of 2 months, but we're going on 2 months now. And so I'm going to be reaching out to the Manhattan Borough President's Office, and that is Mark Levine, and then City Councilwoman Carlina Rivera, who kind of had their people come to the building, see the situation. And so I know the last time I think I had my town hall meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I had mentioned that she was supposed to follow up, and she hasn't followed up yet from Carlina's office. So I'll be following up this week. In terms of COVID protocols, since our last meeting, our last PTA meeting, the COVID protocols have changed a lot. And so I've tried to message that to families as much as possible. So before a classroom is closed, right now, according to the Department of Education, a classroom closure should only happen now if there are 10 cases reported in one classroom and they do a 2-day investigation saying that, oh, we think there's a problem in this classroom and it needs to be closed. So I feel like I need to kind of think about whether or not that is a safe threshold. Our threshold has usually been, as a school, 2 cases in one classroom. And so I'm going to continue kind of following that pattern, because I do think that if we had 2 cases in a classroom, it's very likely that there might be others and we won't really know. And so I'm going to be being very mindful of the fact that we don't want classroom closures. But I also think that waiting until there are 10 cases in a classroom is not a safe protocol either. And so we're going to just really think about it as a school and be really smart and strategic, and really consider whether or not there should be a partial closure or a full closure if there are 2 cases in a room. And so I'm definitely open to hearing from other people what their feelings are, because I know classroom closures can be really challenging. But I also think waiting until there are 10 cases is pretty scary for me. And I think all of us are kind of questioning whether or not that threshold was the best decision. So right now, that's where we're at, and I'm open to hearing, thoughts, concerns, questions that people might have around this specific subject.
Yeah, so maybe we can do that. Usually we leave questions and comments and stuff for the end, but I think since we have a little bit of a shorter agenda, and this is kind of like a pressing topic, maybe we can go straight into, sharing our thoughts or asking Darlene any kind of questions related to this stuff. So anybody want to jump in? Go ahead,
Hi
Darlene.
there. Hi, how are you? Hi, Darlene. Hi, everybody. I totally agree with you, Miss Campbell. I mean, Darlene Cameron, Miss Cameron. I totally agree with you in terms of keeping the threshold lower, because we're still trying to understand the Omicron, and even though they say that it's not as lethal as Delta and the other ones, we have to also keep in mind a lot of the children are not fully vaccinated, and this is a deadly disease. And it's just, we don't want to hear a case where a child lost their life or a loved one because we held out too late. And I think we also have to consider the caregivers that may be compromised. And I personally was very grateful for having the remote option, because in my daughter's classroom, we've had several cases, and even still now, it still pops up. Every week, we've had an additional student, 1 or 2, at a time. And the numbers are kind of going up in that class. And even though it's going down in the city, I'm noticing an uptick within her class. And so having that remote option makes me feel safer. I know ideally, everybody being able to function the way we're used to is what we would like. But I think we're keeping the children and the families safe. And I really think that maintaining that option is very important. And And I know the families within her class that had the option to bring the kids to school, they were most grateful. And it worked out for them too. So I didn't hear any complaints. I think they were happy. I was happy and I felt safe. And I think that's what's really important. The education, I talk a lot, so excuse me. In terms of the quality of education and remote learning, my daughter was able to really delve deep into the homework and at her own pace, read as much as she'd like. She really focused on writing. So it was beneficial academically for her because there was no rush. She had time to really focus on the subjects that she needed help with. And so academically, we didn't suffer. I didn't see a loss of learning. I think if anything, maybe socially missing the class, but we were good. So I think it worked for us and I'm curious to know if it helped other people as well.
Thank you. Anyone have any other thoughts on this? Or reaffirming comments?
Agree with I mean, if the school's able to and like make a decision to lower the threshold to keep it at 2 or 2 in a class that are related, because it just seems like logistically it would call to wait when you know that there's like, there's 9, like 10 just seems like very like high and arbitrary. If there's 9, that's too many. Even if there's like 5, that's probably too many and likely that like all of the rest contract the virus by the time that 10, and there's a 2-day investigation. So if we have the flexibility, I say that we try to keep it low.
I have a question. Does this investigation, 2-day investigation, mean that the kids stay home during those 2 days or they continue to come back to school on those 2 days?
So they continue to come back to school during those 2 days. So yes, that kind of speaks to Ellen's point around it's kind of backwards, the planning. I don't know how else to say it. Just even the whole idea of giving people testing kits after kids have tested positive, when it's like, no, let's just give them away now and let people have them. So I think we just have to be flexible and like I tell my teachers, sometimes I'm just going rogue, and it's really helpful to have the support of all of you, knowing that I'm making some decisions that I think are best for our school, even if that means that we're breaking the rules.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Darlene. Go rogue. Okay.
I also wanted to add that I have some friends that are in TNS and they wish they had the option that the direction that we took, and they don't have the remote option. And so some of them are still nervous, even though, they've had the Christmas break and it's time to return. They're still reluctant to bring the children back. So they're kind of winging it themselves, really hoping that that option will be made available to them. So I think we're on the right path.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. All right, cool. So yeah, so we'll keep monitoring this. Of course, things are going to change from month to month. So we'll get more recommendations, and we'll have to make more decisions and all that kind of stuff. And Darlene, thank you for always keeping the lines of communication open on this stuff and getting our feedback as parents. I would say it's not a normal practice. It's weird to say that, but that's true. It's not a normal practice that the principal and the staff are really asking these kind of questions of parents and looking for our support. So I'm appreciative. I think the rest of us are as well. Okay, cool. So that kind of leads into the next point on the agenda, which is this question on advocacy. So we've done a lot of advocacy over the past couple of weeks. Of course, we've done a lot of the letter writing and calling local officials. We participated in the rally that we had on that really cold day. I forget what date it was. But that was really powerful, where, you know, we collaborated with TNS PTA and also U of T members from both our schools. And we had a rally in front of the school. We did a march around the school. It got like media attention. And it also just happened to happen on the same day that there was a student walkout organized. So all that stuff, I think, has really led to a lot of positive energy and resulting in, like, you know, council members and borough president's office coming to the school. So I think we should keep that energy going and, you know, figure out what the next move is on that front. I know that Harvey Epstein's office reached out and asked what the status was on the pump. So there's opportunities to follow up there too, in addition to Carlina's office. And yeah, and we'll just keep monitoring as the weeks progress. There's some interesting things happening that we talked about at the President's Council. President's Council is like when all the PTA presidents from the whole district come together and they have conversations about what's going on around the city and how it affects our district. And so a lot of the conversations of the President's Council is on the question of mayoral control of the Department of Education. So for those who don't know, right now, the mayor has oversight and control over the Department of Education, selects the chancellor, things like that. Before, it was not that way. I mean, this is something that's very recent in the last 20 years or so. And it used to be more empowerment of parents and school communities to kind of select and screen the chancellor, keep people accountable, all that kind of stuff. Now, there was a lot of issues with that old system because we know that not all PTAs are great and there's a lot of racist parents out there in different districts, and it was playing out in a lot of those dynamics. But we also know that the mayor controlling the situation is not always the best either, because, you know, like, what were we all calling for? We were saying, let's just stay remote or have remote options to after Martin Luther King Day. Let's just do that. It's not that big of a lift. And what happened after Martin Luther King Day? The rates started lowering. It's like we could have avoided all that craziness if we just waited 2 weeks, you know? And that was because we're on the ground, we're members of the community, we understand our realities, like Darlene's saying, like, you know, we have to scale it to what makes sense for our school. And that's something that on a mayoral level, maybe they don't have that kind of insight, or maybe they have a different agenda. So there is some advocacy on the parent front citywide there's the law that gives mayoral control is about to expire. The governor might extend it because of special considerations in her current budget proposal, but there's some citywide kind of advocacy that if people are interested in looping into that and learning more about that advocacy, I can loop you into those conversations that are happening citywide. But I think it ties back on to like our handling of the pandemic and, you know, just having our voices heard as school communities that are dealing with this stuff. Did anyone have any thoughts on parent advocacy and the safe school stuff and any next steps? We could think more about it and come back to it in our February meeting in 2 weeks. Cool, awesome. All right, so stuff to think over. And the next thing we had on our agenda is the garden committee. Ellen, you have any updates on what's going on? I know spring is surprisingly around the corner.
For that, right? The winter we did our paperweights project, which was I would say like pretty successful. I hope it's been like a nice touch to like walk and see like flowers growing inside. And Miss Adu and I and the from TNS, we put it out to both schools. We had 17 kits and all of them are used up. So it probably in some different growing. I think Star, we had like 5 or 6 classes, and then each of the offices got a kit. One has one, and There's one in the library also. I'm gonna see if I can like copy the picture of the one from the chat. I don't know if it'll work. No, it's not gonna work. That's okay. We've been trying to figure out some ways to try to like put pictures. It's something that like even the classes that didn't participate can kind of see it. There's one at security also. So that's really been the focus. Even in the middle of the increase of cases and people, you know, or classes closing, we tried to still like keep it going. So we had a garden committee last week on Thursday. There's like a lot of planning to go on to do, honestly. We're trying to just kind of like solidify some ideas, or I don't want to say curriculum because we're not trying to like, but more just like some frameworks that we can utilize to partner with classes for growing seeds in the classrooms, actually turn into seedlings that will like be put into the garden, and then just like, you know, building out how the classes can engage more and like with the seeds that they grew, as well as other plants. I was on a call today with Grow NYC, a drop-in hour, which was like a really awesome opportunity. There was a lot of research shared. There's like Parks Department that can come in person and nature gardens and things like that. So we're looking, even we're talking, strategizing about some grant opportunities as well. So there's a lot of planning going on for sure. I think it will be a really nice spring and into the summer, like a great growing season. So looking forward for sure. And please, like anyone, I'll try to do like, we'll try to do a better job of like, now that we've kind of had our growing season planning meeting, to make sure that like when we have meetings, put that in the WhatsApp chat so that anyone that's interested in coming can, you know, can participate. We did it on Zoom, but we obviously hope that eventually we'll be able to have more in-person opportunities in the garden, working, you know, just getting a little bit more like strategized and organized with like opportunities so that parents can, and even families together can like drop in, do a little work in the garden, know what to do, or like who to connect with to be active and participate, even if it's like, it takes a little bit of a lot of people doing a little bit to keep it going. So we want to really like build that as well. And any ideas that you all have, especially with like just engagement with the school community as a whole, I'm totally open. I think that's really something that there's that type of discourse, like everyone's input. So
Nice, awesome. Darlene put some comments in the chat about how we have more participation in classrooms with paper white bulbs than we have had in the past with garden initiatives. And I think definitely this year we're feeling like that real collaborative committee of the garden committee, like really feeling like it's a Star and TNS owned process, which is really great. I was gonna say, you know, maybe we could talk about this offline in the chats, but maybe this one of us on the board, maybe Kala or Brenda, I don't want to volunteer people, but someone who has that time that maybe we can gather all the dates for our committee meetings before like the 30th of every month, so that we could get it on our Google Calendar or our class dojo, you know, like get it all populated in there. So people have like a couple weeks notice, and you know, just like creating like a little bit of a deadline for ourselves can be helpful, to kind of get those dates in order so we can get that participation up, you know.
Yeah, we can do that. I guess just if I get a list of all the committees, so I know I'm not missing any, and then I know Ellen on the garden, and Is Maggie fundraising?
Maggie fundraising, Chris Wellness,
And Jenny's
Jenny Book
the book
Fair.
fair.
Mhm.
Is that it?
I think that's our current crew. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, so then it would just be a matter of collecting the dates from them this week for February.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. All right. Awesome. And I don't think we have any reports in from any of the other committees because we haven't had a chance to meet this month. So we'll have more committee reports in February. The other thing is our budget proposal. So we talked about this, I think last meeting or the meeting prior, but twice a year we put together a budget, and really what that is like a kind of overview and guesstimation of our fundraising goals and our potential expenses. So let me just go ahead and share my screen. We'll just go through it quickly. We won't spend too much time on it because it's not too heavy this go around. Hold on one second. Okay, can everybody see that? All right, awesome. So yeah, so we do it twice a year. We do it typically the way it should happen in normal years is that we do our main budget proposal in June, prepping for the following school year. And then we do a check-in in January, kind of reviewing that June budget proposal, seeing where we've had successes and what we think, what we can project for the rest of the school year, right? Like we're kind of like at the halfway point, and we do this interim or this mid-year kind of budget. So we didn't have the June budget proposal because of the pandemic, and we kind of just been freestyling a little bit. So we put together this one, and so again, this is a reflection of things that we traditionally do, ideally are trying to do, but we're not fixed to this stuff, nor is this like what we're limited to. So we can do more, but this is kind of like the stuff that we do traditionally that is like a safe bet, basically. So you can see the events that we have there, and this is the income, the fundraising portion. So we have Candygram, which we traditionally do in February around Valentine's Day. It has historically been a fundraiser for our senior trip or senior, class expenses. And in the past, we've raised anywhere from like $500 to $1,000. So we set a goal for 800. This is the one that I would say is the most concerning because it's like 2 weeks away or 2.5 weeks away, and we haven't really done any planning for it. So I'm hoping to check in with the fundraising committee this week and see if we can get it together and get it organized by Valentine's Day. It's not that big of a lift in terms of like, there's already a website, a Candygram website that we already have made orders on that we can basically just like reorder the stuff that we have in the past. But it's, it's like a bake sale. So it's kind of like setting up a table outside again and kind of getting our forces together for that. So we just kind of have to figure out if we have the people power to pull it off, basically. Darlene, do you have a sense if the 5th graders are doing a senior trip or something like that this year?
You know what, we're not sure yet. We've done like regular field trips, and we kind of surveyed families to see how they felt about that, whether or not they felt like that would be safe. This year, I mean, what we normally do is they go to Philadelphia and they spend, one night there. And so I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do that this year, just because of the way that the trip was set up. You would have like 5 kids in one hotel room, like with one of the adults. So right now I'm kind of feeling like probably not. But I think we'll know more in April when, we're kind of in warmer weather. We can kind of see what's going on with cases around the city. So yeah, I think we can definitely have our events, and whether or not we'll apply it towards, you know, a specific 5th grade field trip, I think we'd have to kind of determine that later. So I don't know if we could say like tentatively right now, the funds, you know, the proceeds would go to this if, you know, if we actually do go on a trip.
Okay. Yeah, I know last year we did like a pizza party. This year we also had ideas. I know Maggie and the team was talking about like maybe making like senior shirts or like senior swag for the graduating class. We talked about, you know, organizing senior class pictures. So definitely stuff to raise money for. So yeah, so that's what our Candygram traditionally has been. So that's on the budget. Our readathon is one of our bigger fundraisers of the year. We haven't done readathon for a few years though. It's just March has like always snuck up on us and we're just like, oh, how are we gonna get it together? So if, you know, the next fundraising committee meeting, I would encourage the fundraising committee to really not only talk about the Candygram, but also some early thoughts on the readathon and how to pull that off. And $2,000 seems like a big number in terms of fundraising, but the readathon in years past has raised over $4,000. So there's a lot of potential with the readathon. It's kind of like a readathon is like, you know, when someone's like running a marathon and they ask for donations to support their cause they're running for. That's kind of like the readathon. The kids are asking for donations and support to support reading and literacy, and they're making a commitment to reading a certain amount of books or doing a certain amount of hours of reading. And that's their pledge in, you know, exchange for people making their financial pledge. So it's like a win-win. So in any case, it's a great event, but it's something that we kind of have to talk through. We have our bake sale listed there, our next bake sale for Easter, thinking of sometime in April. Our last bake sale, which Chris and I know Maggie just jumped on too, we can report on our holiday bake sale, which was a great success. We talked about doing some more raffles. I know we had a little bit of a raffle on our winter bake sale, and then Shy also organized a raffle. So there was talks about doing a Mother's Day raffle in May, and like raffling off something really cool, maybe like an Apple Watch or something like that, something that we could really get a lot of buzz around. And then of course our next Scholastic Book Fair. So the Book Fair Committee had been talking about possibly, and I think May was the date we were talking about, we're doing our next Scholastic Book Fair. And this one, there was conversations about it potentially. Of course, we got to play it by ear as we get closer to the date, but potentially being like a in-person, maybe in the courtyard, you know, figuring out some kind of logistics, you know, in the, you know, in and around in front of the school. So that's something that we've been talking about, and that would potentially bring in that 2,000. So that's that goal of 6,100. And then you can see in terms of expenses, some of the anticipated expenses that we have for the year. And again, I'll share this document with everybody in Dojo so you can review it then. The spring yard party for in years past, we've done like an end of the year kind of celebration for the school. And so this is the idea of doing like an end of the year kind of like, you know, get together. There's some rental fees with doing stuff in the yard on weekends. So that's part of that budget, the expenses. And then also too, just like rental of like, you know, whatever kind of stuff that we want to have, you know, or if we want to have like face painting or, you know, any kind of cool activities for the kids. So yeah, anybody have any questions about the budget or what it means or the anticipated fundraisers or anything like that, or comments?
I think just for in terms of logistics, we probably might want to call the Easter sale a spring bake sale just because of the religious connotation.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I just wanted to like piggyback off of the readathon. The kids do get a sense of that if they read they do get to like pick like little prizes. They do have prizes online for the kids to pick. So it does give them like, oh, I'm getting donations to my school to help, but I'm also getting like little trinkets and stuff. So it does give them more of a incentive to want to read versus like, oh, I'm not getting money. You know, everybody likes money, but at least now the kids also get like their little prizes and stuff at the end of the day.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, so if anyone, so we're still trying to set our date, I think for our fundraising committee, but we're trying to see if we do it in the first 2 weeks of February. So definitely we'll pick up more of the kind of fundraising conversation. And then also too, I know some folks are interested in helping with creation of events in general, not just necessarily fundraisers. And that's important too. So typically, what we would love to have is a fundraising committee and then a separate events committee that's also brainstorming events that are like, movie nights or book readings or, stuff that doesn't have any fundraising component attached to it. So if anyone has any ideas like that and wants to participate in that kind of committee, there's space for that for sure. We're just kind of like a little bit, still in survival mode, and we're just trying to, do enough that we're fundraising, supporting our families, but also not over extending ourselves and our bandwidth as parents, like doing too much. It would be great if we could have like 5 events a month, but it's just not realistic, I think, at this time. So, but if you have some energy and time to organize some stuff, virtual events, all that stuff is welcomed. Cool. And I think that's it for like report backs on the agenda. We'll go into our Title I stuff real quick. The other thing is, so on the group chat topic, I know people were joining our WhatsApp chats and there's some confusion which chat is what, and should I be in this committee chat? So just some clarity. So our main chat on WhatsApp is the parent leader chat. So that's for, everyone to join, and that's for general conversation. And then we have our committee chats, which are specifically for the committee organizers. So that's not necessarily every volunteer. Like Ellen has the garden chat, and there's a couple of TNS parents on there and judges on there. But anyone and everyone who wants to volunteer for the garden committee doesn't necessarily have to be on that chat, because it could be a little bit of overload. That's more for like big level conversations, planning out meetings, talking through logistics. I mean, I guess it's up to the committee to decide, but just don't feel like if you're not on a committee chat that that's the only place you're going to find out about events. You could be on the general chat and find out about events. And if you feel like you're on too many chats, I know some of y'all are like on 3 chats or 4 chats, just like share that, because the worst thing is for people to start muting chats because they're feeling like the conversation doesn't, is not relevant to them. And then they're just like, tuning out all the conversations. We never want that. Okay. So I know some of the chairs have been going through and kind of cleaning up their chats and making sure that people aren't feeling burnout, but also feel free to express that. And cool. So yeah, so maybe let's move into our Title I conversation, and I'll give the floor to Helen. Helen, you ready? All right, go for it.
So, hi everybody. Good evening. I'll keep this brief. So just a quick thing. Yesterday was the citywide Title I meeting that is basically hosted by, her name is Andrea Ferguson. She's the Senior Director of Title I Family and Community Engagement. Title I chairpersons from each school are there as observers. We can't really participate in the conversation. The people who are considered part of the panel are the district, the DPACs. So each person who was nominated and represents the PAC, which stands for Parent Advisory Council, which is a lot of, abbreviations here. Sometimes they get confusing. So basically the takeaway from that meeting, which was the over 2 hours, 2 hours and 9 minutes. Yeah, we'll talk about that, Darlene. So the meeting was over 2 hours, and there are some deadlines that are coming up as far as how we want to spend this money. So from the Title I funds, 1% of that is set aside. It's called the Set Aside Funds for Family Engagement. This year, I just looked at my notes, and Darlene, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. The set aside is $1,092. And then the rollover from the previous year is $542 from the previous year. So that's just, I looked at an old email that you had sent me in December, right? So I think this is pretty current information. So there's some deadlines coming up between February, March, and April. One thing that they did say that was really important was within the last 2 fiscal years, funds from the previous year were allowed to be rolled over to the next year because of COVID. And in the ways that changed everything and limited people's capacities, our capacities to meet in person and plan events and so forth. As of right now, that might not be the case for this year. So whatever decisions we make, we need to move forward as if the money isn't going to be rolled over. Okay. During the last PTA meeting, I spoke briefly, and I know we discussed putting together, like, how do we empower parents? How do we engage them? What do we want to do to help them be able to support their children better? And that was around the time when the Chromebooks were first being handed out to the students. Darlene, as of right now, have all the Chromebooks been distributed?
Yes, all the Chromebooks have been distributed.
Okay, good. So what we spoke about then briefly was about putting together a workshop to help parents and or the the kids caretakers to troubleshoot any issues that they might be having with the Chromebook. And I know parents have had some issues with the Chromebook so far. I know that this Monday was supposed to be the last, well, as of this Monday, all STAR students were supposed to be in person again, right? Now, but this situation is constantly changing. So the kids are going to be able to hold on to these Chromebooks until the end of the school year, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so because that is still the case, and we're lucky to have this opportunity, that option, as the other parents spoke about, that TNS doesn't have, and I'm sure a lot of other schools don't have. We wanted, I think the relevancy and the importance of still hosting this workshop is still viable. However, because it's going to be limited to maybe an hour and 15 minutes the most, what I was thinking of doing was somehow getting feedback from parents on what issues that they have with the Chromebooks themselves. Now, if anyone is on the call now and wants to give me like a quick, idea of the issues that they ran into, because I imagine that it might be different from someone who has a child in kindergarten or 4th grade or 5th grade. That's something that I'm hey, Brenda, yeah. Okay, Brenda, go ahead, please.
So we were used to the iPads, and the kids said that now the school's letting them use the computer. And because I had to buy a new laptop for work, they wanted one too. So we got them the Chromebook. And it was a little troubling trying to get them to sign in for just logging onto the Chromebook itself, because it opens up and it has to have like the kids login. So that was a little tedious to do. I mean, I figured it out after going password to password, because in the beginning, I think of when COVID started, that's when the kids got their emails and got their password. So I had them written down, but you know, papers tend to fly away. So it was kind of difficult to remember that. So just to get into it, to the main page, or just to get to like a web browser, you have to have all these credentials for the kids first. So having, I guess, like, let's just say, okay, a reminder email or something set out with the child's email as well as the password here and there, or very accessible, because I know it's kind of hard that Eva's quarantined, but they're still in-person learning. It's kind of hard to get the teachers to respond back, even though I know they're, you know, teaching in class, but I'm like, okay, Eva can't log on. And so I get this logged on first. So I have to wait for a dojo message back and forth. So that was like one of the main issues I had.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And then Sean, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, one of the things that this is probably more relevant, I guess, for younger kids. But the transition from the iPad to the Chromebook, one of the issues we ran into was like the touch screen. It's not being a touch screen anymore, and like understanding how to use the touchpad. I think it's is a skill. And it's different, like, you know, like even like how do you get the mouse from this side of the screen to that side of the screen? So like if we have this workshop, just like spending some time on like touchpad, you know, usage, and also like the tricks, you know, how do you right click on something and how do you highlight something, which is a little bit higher level, but that could be helpful. I think there's some, I don't know if the person that we're hiring understands the DOE Google Classrooms interface. So it might be good to see if we could also have someone on the call who's familiar with Google Classrooms. I don't know. I don't know if they're savvy to it, because there's like gonna be, like Brenda was saying, a lot of questions on like signing into the classrooms and making sure you're logged in and all that kind of stuff, knowing the right credentials. So yeah.
Yeah, no, you know, the person that I found was someone that knows another parent, another star parent. His name is Severin. He's very easy to work with. He's great so far. And he did find like a security risk within Google, which is something that, you know, should be addressed. So yeah, and I'm gonna take notes on, well, I'm gonna watch the recording again and then take notes on everything. Jack, you have your hand up?
Yes. I would say just these are easy fixes. It's just something, it just takes a little cleanup. But I would say some of the subjects as they are presented in Google Classroom, the teachers' names are not all the right names. And like there's pictures, like for example, Miss Cameron, you're listed under phys ed for some reason. And Jody is, I think, the head of the art department or something like that. And so there's some things that might be a little confusing to parents, like, okay, if the child is looking for their teacher, they should see their teacher's name and or picture, or at least their name for the subject. And some of the teachers are posting the work in a way that you can actually find the work. Like for example, Miss Gooker and the phys ed teacher, when you go to the Google Classroom, you'll see their name, and they have all the subjects organized by the grade levels: kindergarten, first grade, second grade. So it's easy for a third grader to just click and say, okay, that's my class, that's my subject, that's my assignment. And then when they click on classwork, they'll see the current work that's due that week. But other classes, you have to click around and actually look for the homework. And if you click on classwork, it's not even there. It's like it's easy. What I'm trying to say is easy for kids to overlook posted work that's due if it's not placed in the right section. And what I do as a backup is I go to the emails to see the date that the teacher posted the work so that I can make sure that my daughter doesn't miss anything. So I'm following behind her to make sure everything is completed. But other than that, a child could be easily lost trying to find their homework. And I don't think they would know to check their emails to see, you know, the recent postings. So, and then when they're looking at all the subjects, music and art and phys ed and their classwork, that's a lot of clicking around to find homework. And easily they could, you know, the work is missing or late or, you know, and the child could just have missed it. So that I would say just if we can organize in a way that the kids can see all their work when they click classwork, then they'll say, oh yes, I completed all my work for music. I've completed everything for art without having to click around so much. And the last thing I wanted to share was besides the daily check-ins for remote classwork, my daughter's class has homework, and we love the homework. We're used to in person we get the homework packet. However, posting the homework packet online presents a challenge because the work is scanned, and then now the children have to write on the scanned image. So we're dealing with using the right program that allows the child to physically write on a scanned image. So it's not like you're going to Microsoft Word and actually typing it out. Sometimes we have to draw. So you're switching from alphanumeric typing to now I need to draw a circle, but I can't because Microsoft Word has different ways of doing circles, and you might not be able to freehand a circle in the direction that you need to do. I don't know if that makes any sense. And I think this would be the same challenge for art. Like the art teacher has been pretty good at coming up with projects that don't require them using the computer. They can work and do 3D sculptures themselves and not necessarily have to do digital art. But in terms of scanned image for homework, it's hard to go back and forth for math in general, that's specifically math, to actually draw in math with Google Docs. And so there has to be some kind of solution there, I think, for homework that's scanned. If it was downloaded and it was like a actual doc, you know, a document that was typed and shared, then it's easy to actually complete things on the line, if you understand what I'm saying. But if it's a scanned image, then it's like sometimes the child would have to type underneath it because the image can't be written over, depending on what type of image is placed there. So it's like we're writing around the image because we can't draw directly on the image, and that's the exact problem that they have to do. So we have a couple of little challenges, but it's not, for the most part, everything is working fine that I see. And we have no problems logging in and out. I just know that if the battery dies and you turn on the computer, you have to log in as if it was like almost like day one when you first get the Chromebook. It takes a little bit, takes a little longer to just hop onto the Google Classroom. It takes about almost 10 minutes to physically open up the classroom because it's going through some kind of whatever the diagnostics is before the internet kicks on. It's not immediate that we can click on like our home computer. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your feedback. It's good to hear, because I know like we couldn't connect to a printer, like my printer. You can't. And if you have scanned documents, if you can print them, it just might make things a little easier, but I couldn't connect. So that's just one issue that I had. I think, Maggie, did you have your hand up?
I did. I just put my head down because just, I guess, comments were just being addressed. But just my my thoughts on, I don't know if there's anything that we can do about internet connection, right? Because the Chromebook sometimes for me, when I try to set it up with Chelsea, it was just, a lot. It was just like loading. I was just waiting and waiting. I had experience when she was online, she couldn't join on time because of that, because it was just loading and waiting. So I don't know. I know during the pandemic, there was some incentive given out to everyone about internet. I don't know if the internet providers or it was given to parents or any student that needed that. Is that something that's still out there?
Quick question, is the laptop
Yeah.
that you have, does it have T-Mobile or does it have Verizon?
T-Mobile, I believe. Why is it
Yeah.
a bad connection? T-Mobile.
No, because it apparently, a lot of the Chromebooks that have the T-Mobile are the ones that are
Mhm.
having issues with being able to
Oh, look at that.
log
Maybe, yeah.
on. And the tech guy that I spoke with, he said it's probably like a software thing. But it's so there's issues
we're the
with
lucky ones then.
T-Mobile. Well, I have the
Oh,
same one,
gotcha.
so I understand what you're talking
Oh,
about.
yeah, gotcha. Okay.
So I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure we could go on for more, but this is great feedback. And Darlene, I saw you wrote in the comments. I'm definitely gonna put a survey together because I would imagine
Sorry.
this is just like a fraction of the feedback that is necessary. And I want to make this workshop as informative and helpful as possible to as many parents. So I'll work on that survey, and as I have nothing else to add because I think this is really important. Does
Can I just
anyone
add
have?
something really quick? This is my,
Sure.
I think someone mentioned about scanning the documents. I think what I've been doing too is downloading the Google app, Google Classroom on my phone. So what I would do is when I submitted pictures or homework, I would just take a picture from my phone and submit it through Google Classroom on the app. And that's how kind of like the workaround with the digital pictures.
No, I absolutely get it because I would always do her work on the phone. And I'm like, why is it that it's so much easier to do it on the phone? And then I have this laptop and it's
Yeah,
like
it's not
funky,
working.
like nothing,
Yeah.
nothing jives. So, okay,
Right,
thank
right.
you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
great. So does anyone have any questions or any feedback? Because we're gonna wrap up. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I also wanted to mention maybe in the survey, if you want to ask if some of the older kids or maybe even the younger need pencils, because other than that, they're drawing with their fingers, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it might be harder for depending on the spaces to input
So you
information
mean
on
like a
the line.
stylus pen?
Yeah, if perhaps we might need it, because I don't know what it's like. And Ellen, it would be nice to hear if we have any feedback from the lower grades of what the experience is like for the younger kids. But I know with the older kids, eventually they can work around it. The kids are pretty savvy; they pick up pretty quickly, and a lot of them are learning to type. But I'm always concerned about the little kids and their ability to feel a little bit more independent. So I think I would like to see perhaps programs that are user-friendly for the kids to draw freehand as if they were using a tablet or an iPad. Um, so I think maybe perhaps an app, it doesn't necessarily mean changing the device, but if there's an app where the kids can actually submit their drawings, because little kids need to express themselves through art. And if they're nonverbal or they're still learning how to write, I think it's important for them to have the opportunity to submit their drawings if they go remote. Other than that, then they're drawing on paper, and then the parent has to take a picture and then upload, and then it's a lot of work just to submit a drawing, is what I'm trying to say. So if we had an app that they can directly draw on it and click submit, that's a whole lot easier than drawing on paper and then parent taking a picture and then emailing it. It's a lot of steps just to submit a drawing. And I think the kids need to stay in that creative zone and communicate their thoughts as much as possible. So so in a nutshell, an art app and a stylus, and just to see if the parents agree if they would need it, or however it works for the younger grades. And perhaps maybe the wish list from the teachers themselves, like what would they like to be able to do in Google Classroom that perhaps they're having trouble with. What do they need help with is what I'm trying to say.
Thanks, Judge.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, so I think we're gonna move on to the Treasury Report.
Yeah, and also too,
So,
if you put
yeah.
anything about like a stylus pen in the survey and there is a big kind of demand, that's also something too, as a PTA, we can decide if we want to expense, buying stylus for all the students or something like that, so parents should also know we have a PTA budget to support that kind of stuff that, maybe the school doesn't have the resources for, we can do that kind of like ancillary support, or like a separate art app or something like that. If we investigate and we find something and there's a proposal brought forward, those are all things that we can discuss as a PTA. So thanks, Helen. And yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, Helen, did you have a date for the workshop?
Um,
Not yet.
no, not yet. I mean, no, I
Is-
mean soon, but like this is the meat of the workshop, right? So we're still on this stage, but I think within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we should have something.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, Chris, maybe we could just for the sake of time, because I know we wanted to finish in an hour, maybe we could just share the big points of what happened with our bank account over the past 60 days or so. You're not muted, but I don't hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, I'm having some problems with my laptop. So I just have to speak really, really closely. So just be prepared. It's the whole
Sound
Jill
good. You sound
Power
good.
again. All right. We were able to pay for the wonderful pictures that we took a couple of months back. So that's why our balance looked really, really high for just a second, because that check came out. And now our current balance reflects our bake sale money that we got, which was in cash, just a little bit over 1,000. And then we got some via card, which is $200. So yeah, $1,200 from the bake sale, which is pretty good. And it'll be even better once the time gets warmer for our next bake sale.
Yeah, awesome. I think that's our biggest bake sale ever, as far as I know, in current documented history. So congratulations to Maggie and the whole team. Yeah, and we have to follow up with our picture folks about our group class composites, because those were never sent out, right? Yeah, so we have to follow up on that and see what's going on with that. Cool. Any questions about the bank account? If you were able to pull up the finance report and the link. So we got around, what is it, over $12,000 in there right now? Something like that. Yeah, $12,000. So that's a good amount. I mean, we don't have a lot of expenses because there's not a lot of in-person activities happening right now. And, we haven't put forward any kind of proposals for funding for anything. But it's a decent amount. And I think the proposed budget reflects increase in that amount by the end of the year, closer to like 15 or 16,000 by end of year, which would set us up, hopefully, if we're doing some more in-person events next year, assemblies and, different kind of activities next school year, we'll have the funding to do that. Cool. So I guess that's the end of the formal agenda. Is there any final thoughts or comments that people want to make before we break for the night? Go ahead, Helen.
I actually have a question for Darlene. You keep hearing like about attendance in the news and how low it is. I was just curious, like, since we had the option to do remote and then Monday was the day to be back, how has attendance been?
So attendance has been good. especially, you know, knowing that, you know, Monday was pretty much the day we anticipated everybody coming back. We still have some families who are very fearful about returning in person. And so our amazing parent coordinator, Shai, has been kind of reaching and contacting those families on an individual basis and kind of counseling them around, you know, the importance of their child being in person, asking them what their fears are, and then really trying as much as possible to allay their fears by reminding them of what our protocols are, how, you know, we're really being mindful around making sure that if kids are feeling symptomatic, that they're going to the nurse right away, that they're isolating, that, you know, we're testing kids in the building that we're not even, you know, we're not supposed to necessarily be testing with those at-home kits in school, but we're doing that anyway. And so I think letting families know that we have all these additional protocols in place has been helping. But there are 2 or 3, very small number considering we have, you know, almost 200 students, but there are around 3 families or 4 families who we're still very concerned about because it's very challenging for them to feel safe in having their child return to school in person. So we're working with them on an individual basis.
Thank you. I was just wondering. Thank you.
Hey, it's Nicole, Jonathan and Gabby's mom. I don't know if you addressed it before, but I was looking at the report. I think I'm maybe one of the 5th grade parents on, so I didn't know if Candygram sale, are we gonna do that in February?
Yeah, so we have it on our proposed budget, and with the intention that it's going to support 5th graders graduation experience, whether that be a field trip or, you know, buying senior sweaters or, you know, swag or having a party, senior pictures, all that kind of stuff. But we need some support to get it together
Yeah.
in time. And definitely if there's 5th grade parent support for that, that'd be amazing. So Maggie is our fundraising chair.
Okay.
So maybe you can connect with Maggie. Maybe
Yeah.
Maggie, you could drop your email in
Some
the
of the
chat.
Yeah, if she could drop me her email address, and then I know there's a few 5th grade parents, we've kind of seen each other during pickup drop off. So I said, like, I'd pitch in the PTA meeting so we don't forget about it. And then we could kind of loop it in on the 5th grade dojo, you know, with some of the parents, if you need any support with like getting that going. So, okay, thanks.
So awesome. Cool. So Maggie, I'll drop my email too, just in case Maggie stepped away. Oh, there she goes. So yeah, so that'd be great. Any other last comments or thoughts before we break for the night? Bye, Helen. Awesome. So we're gonna be reconvening soon on February 8th, just in 2 weeks. And we'll have a fuller meeting, and hopefully we'll populate Class Dojo and our Google Calendar with all the upcoming committee meetings. We had a little bit of a lull, but that was, you know, intentional. We wanted to make sure we gave everyone the space over the month of January to kind of deal with all the complexities of the month. And we'll be back in business come February and gearing up for the springtime. Cool. So I'll see y'all in 2 weeks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Everyone, have a good night.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Have
Good
a
night,
great
y'all.
night.
Good night,